I've got the new Anastasia Beverly Hills and Jackie Aina collaboration eyeshadow palette to share with you guys today, and also the 2 new loose highlighters that she came out with. So this is the outside box packaging that it comes in. It's very, very pretty. The packaging on the actual eyeshadow palette is hands down my favorite packaging that has ever been on one of the ABH eyeshadow palettes. I think that it's so pretty. It's got like this shifty kind of duochrome effect to it. It'll wipe clean. It's not like fuzzy or sticky or anything like that. It's just my favorite that she's done so far. The size of the palette is the same as all of the ABH eyeshadow palettes, and then inside you do have the mirror and then 14 eyeshadows, which are 0.02 ounces per shade, which is pretty small in terms of the amount of product that you're getting per shadow. And then this palette does come with the same standard brush that she puts in all of her palettes, which I really wish she would switch it up because the formulation of her matte shadows is really, really soft. I use pretty soft eye brushes the way it is, but the brush that it comes with, it's pretty firm. So like using this in there, you could just get a lot of kick up. The other side is softer and kind of a flat shader synthetic, but I think it's time to switch this out. The brush is made in China, and then the palette is made in eyeshadows and pressed pigments made in the USA. Dual brush made in PRC. So I've used almost every shade in this palette except for Sponsored and Lituation. They're shiny shimmer shades that they have great pigmentation and they're really pretty as well. I just haven't used them yet. I've used all of the mattes, and I was pleasantly surprised with the shade Big Wig. It's kind of hard to say, which is a matte purple. Matte purples are really hard to kind of do. They just tend to kind of have a more patchiness factor to them. That one did blend out quite a bit better than some of the matte purples, dark matte purples like that I've tried in the past. I had used it in the crease when I did use it. And then the shade Pinker, it initially looks like a matte shadow, but it does have very, very fine shimmers shot through a matte formulation. That is the only shade like that. I'll get up close and point out which ones are the matte shades as well. There are 3 shades in here that kind of have a chunkier texture to them, which are Zam, Trust Issues, and Dwalas. So when you go to pick them up with a brush, they kind of pick up chunky. So when you put them on the eyes, you kind of have to break apart that product. They're not quite as smooth as some of the shades like Sponsored, Lituation, and Soleil. But once they're on and blended, they are really pretty shades. You do have to worry about a little bit of fallout with those. Same with the mattes. They're a soft formula, so you just barely have to put your brush in there to pick up product. I typically, with ABH shadows, do a little tapping of my brush to get that product off. Otherwise, I would get more fallout on my cheeks. I did do a demo with this palette and the 2 new loose eyeshadows, which is the look that's on my face right now. So if you're interested in seeing how I got that and kind of how these performed for me, you can hang tight towards the end of the video. But all in all, this palette is very in line, in my opinion, with all of the rest of the ABH shadows. I just feel like I'm using an ABH eyeshadow palette. I think the color selection is really pretty. When I do a close-up and do the swatches, I'm going to compare them next to a couple other palettes of hers so you can kind of see the differences or similarities between the 2. In terms of shade uniqueness, there isn't anything out of the ordinary in here. I've seen all of these shades several times over. There aren't really too many duochromes. This one does look like it's a white shade, but it has a golden shift to it. I've got that kind of on the inner portion of my eye today. And there are quite a bit of deeper matte shades in here. So on my lighter skin tone, I kind of have the option of using the shade Supreme as a transition, or blending this shimmer in with one of these deeper shades to get them to kind of blend together, because the matte shades are pretty deep, with the exception of that shade Supreme. There isn't a light enough matte brow bone highlight in here either, so I did go in with the shade Soleil because I wanted to keep it inclusive with this palette for the look, and I still think that it looks really pretty. That shade Soleil underneath the brow ties in with that Vegas highlight just super well, so I'm really pleased with how the look came out. But overall, a really nice ABH palette. Depending on how many ABH palettes you have may determine whether or not you want to pick this one up, but it is a nice palette. So here is the palette up close. I'm going to point out those matte eyeshadows. You've got Supreme, Big Wig, Credit, Edges, and Ginger, and then you do have the shade Pinker right here, which again, the base of that is matte, but it does have very fine shimmers shot through it. And then those chunkier shades that I was talking about was Dwalas, Trust Issues, and Zam. And then for the smoother shimmers, you've got Soleil, Wiggalese, Shookington, Lituation, and Sponsored right there. So let's go ahead and swatch these guys. I always feel like when I swatch shadows that are only 0.2 ounces, I'm using probably a whole week's worth of application. Probably not that extensive, but 0.2 is pretty small. So there are the first 4. And then these next 4. So you can just kind of see that this one is a bit chunkier. Buff it out right there. And then these next guys. Right there. And then the last 2. Right there. Okay, fit them all in there. So those are the swatches right there. Pretty shades. So I'm going to show comparisons of other ABH palettes. The top one will be the Jackie Aina palette. The bottom one on this is the Alyssa Edwards palette. This next one is the Sultry palette on bottom and the Jackie Aina on top. Then we have got the Riviera palette on the bottom and the Jackie Aina palette on top again. This one we have got Soft Glam on the bottom and Jackie Aina on top. This one we have got the Norwegian palette on the bottom and the Jackie Aina palette on top. And then here we have got the Renaissance palette on the bottom and the Jackie Aina palette on top. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. So you can see that there are differences between the palettes, but there are some shades that are kind of the same. Again, I feel like those shades worked out much like I'm used to with ABH eyeshadows. Now let's go ahead and talk about her 2 new loose highlighters. I'm going to go ahead and swatch these next to the other 3 that she previously came out with. I'm very much in love with the 2 new ones. I actually purchased 2 right off the bat from seeing swatches online of the shade Vegas, and I'm probably going to get another one for a backup. I don't know if these are limited edition or permanent. I just know that I really, really love them. What I was doing before was mixing So Hollywood with Snowflake to kind of get that champagne shade, because So Hollywood's just a little bit too deep, and I love Snowflake, but I was wishing for kind of, you know, a champagne. And boom, here's Vegas. This is the highlighter that I have on my cheeks today. I think it's absolutely stunning. And then I also have the shade Peach Fizz on my cheeks as a blush, which again, I've been using it as a blush kind of non-stop recently, and I think it's really, really pretty. On a deeper skin tone, I can only imagine how pretty this would be as a highlighter. I'm very much in love with these loose highlighters from ABH. We'll just say that. So each one of these comes with 0.21 ounces of product inside. Again, the packaging is really pretty. There isn't like a twisty or anything on the sifter for these. It's just kind of loose in there. So I'm going to go ahead and swatch the shade Vegas first, because I'm just obsessed with Vegas. It's right there. Swatch it right here. I mean, I just think it's just absolutely stunning. So pretty. So that's the shade Vegas. And then here is the shade Peach Fizz, which again I've been using as a blush. Right here. I do have to build this one up a little bit on my skin tone to get it to show up a little bit more, because you can see there is a shift of gold in the Peach Fizz as well. Grabbed a little bit more from the pot for you guys here. Next up is the shade Snowflake that I'll swatch next to these other guys. There is, I will say there is something, there's just a little extra something in Snowflake, a little extra sparkle compared to the other shades. But they're all really pretty. Next up is the shade So Hollywood, which I really love mixing with Snowflake. up until I got Vegas. So here is So Hollywood. It's just a bit of a deeper golden shade. And then the last shade is Sunset Aura, which is a deeper bronze color. I'm trying to get enough. It's a little bit more difficult because these are loose to get a good amount on my finger to swatch it. Right there. So you've got Vegas, Peach Fizz, Snowflake, So Hollywood, and Sunset Aura right there. And then I did just notice that the caps for So Hollywood and Vegas are the same like type of shimmer on them, and then the shades for Peach Fizz and Sunset Aura also have the same pink colored top, if that matters. But I just love these. There's something about the shine that they give the skin. It's real, like almost like see-through. Like you can see that there's a real high shine on the cheeks, but you can also kind of see through to your skin. There's just something about these that I think is so pretty on the skin. Now if you're interested in seeing how I got this look and how these products perform for me, you can hang tight and we'll get into it right now. Using a Rephr P09 brush, I'm going to go into the loose highlighter in the shade Vegas. And I'm going to put that on all of the points that I like to highlight, which are the top of the cheekbones. I'm so obsessed with this. I'm so obsessed. I like to do the tip of the brow, a little bit on the end of the nose. Some in the middle here, Cupid's bow, and right in the center of the chin. I'm going to bronze my face now. I like to highlight, bronze, and then blush. So I'm going to go in with the Bare Minerals bronzer in the shade Faux Tan and a MAC 125 SE brush. I just like to start the back of the cheekbone and bring it forward. I really like this bronzer. I've been using it a ton. My forehead. And then I like to go underneath the jaw as well and kind of sculpt out that. Put a little on my ear. Then I'm going to go into the loose highlighter in the shade Peach Fizz, and I'm going to use that as a blush. And I'm going to use a Chikuhodo and Beautylish collab brush for that. I kind of got to pick up a bit of product with this guy because it is a highlighter, but on my fair skin tone, it's a really pretty blush built up. Just buff that all through here. I just think it's so pretty. And then after blush, I like to go back in with my highlighter brush. Usually I don't pick up any more product, but I just like to make sure that this edge is super blended. My cheeks are just living their best life right now. I'm going to use a Chikuhodo, I believe this is one of the MK brushes right here with the design. You can get this also on Beautylish. I think I got mine, geez, I've had this brush for I want to say 6 years. I remember I had originally ordered it off of the Chikuhodo site and I got my name put on there. But anyway, I'm going to use that with the Guerlain Meteorites in the Pearls to Satin, which is pretty close to the shade 02 Claire, which I normally use. Ooh. Some bitch. And I shake up the tin to kind of loosen up the pearls and get a little bit more powder on my brush because this is a super soft brush. But I'll pick that up. And then I just like to buff these all over the face. And it just kind of ties everything together. Then using a Hakuhodo and Sephora Pro synthetic that I got quite some time ago, I'm going to use the Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue in Opal 01 foundation stick as an eyeshadow primer. This has got SPF 25 in it, and I've really been loving this for an eye primer. And I'm going to prime the lid to up underneath the brow with this guy. Then using a Sonia G Builder 2 brush, I'm going to go into the shade Trust Issues which looks white, but it's got a golden shift to it. I'm going to put that on the inner portion of the eye here. This shade is kind of chunky. Then I'm going to flip over that same brush and go into the shade Wiggly's. Maybe we'll just go with that. How about? And I'm going to put that out here, and then I'll blend it into that other shade. Just flip over my brush here. I'm going to pick up just a bit of this shade called Dwala's. And I'm going to kind of put it right here. Those didn't mesh quite as well as I would have liked. That's better. Then using a Sonia G Builder Pro brush, I'm going to go into the shade Edges, which is one of the mattes. I'm going to put this out here and angle it up towards the tail of the brow. You know how a lot of people get under eye puffiness from like being tired and stuff like that? My upper lids get puffy. So like they're kind of extra puffy today. Which makes trying to put eyeliner on very interesting, but I'm just going to blend this up here. I'm going to pick up a little bit of the shade Credit as well. That one wasn't quite as deep as I would have liked it. And put that Credit shade, which is also a matte, in here. And then blend it in there. Then using a Hakuhodo J146 brush, I'm going to go into the shade Ginger. And I'm going to start kind of buffing this out a bit. There is not a matte brow bone highlight in here, so I'm going to go into the shade Soleil, which is a shimmer, and I'm going to use that on Esum G29 brush, which is my favorite underneath the brow brush. And I'm just going to put that under here. It kind of goes right in with the highlighter almost. Then on a slightly fluffier brush, I'm going to take a Sonia G Crease 2 brush and just barely dip into that ginger shade. This pink, you know what, should we do the pink? Would the pink ruin it? Let's do the pink. We'll do the pink. That might work a little better. I'm going to dip into that matte pink shade on that brush and just kind of feather that through here. The pink is kind of one of the only tones for my skin coloring that works as a good transition. Otherwise I gotta kind of blend between two colors, but that's fine too. That actually worked out nice. Right there, that pink. Then without picking up any more product, I like to go back in with that Esum G29 and just kind of buff these edges a bit. With the shimmer and the light, sometimes it throws it off in the camera with being blended or not, but it looks really nice in person. And there is the shadow done. I'm going to go ahead and put some brows on and finish up my eye makeup, and I'll be right back to put on some lips for you guys. For lips, I've got one of the new Esum dual-ended lip pencils, and this is in the shade Nude. I'm going to use the lighter shade on there and go ahead and line my lips with this guy. This is a pretty shade. It's like a warmer shade of nude. And then to fill them in, I've got my first ever Kylie lip product. This is the Kylie Butterscotch Cream Lipstick. Got this at Ulta the other day. Very opaque. I was wearing this in my last haul video too, and I really like the color and the formula, but I noticed with all that talking in that video, I did get kind of that lip line on the inner side of the lip, but typically I don't talk that much during the day compared to like that video, but otherwise I really like this lipstick. They're so opaque. So there is the overall finished look using the new Anastasia Beverly Hills and Jackie Aina collab eyeshadow palette and the 2 new highlighters. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to wear sunscreen, and I'll see you guys later.